To make matters worse, in 1937, the Haganah, which was the underground militia of the labor Zionists, who were the dominant element in the World Zionist Organization, sent a guy by the name of Feivel Polkus to Berlin to negotiate over the Haravara with the Nazis. And and as it happened, the Nazi who was assigned to negotiate with him was Adolf Eichmann, okay, who
later transports millions of Jews to their death.
Yeah, of course. I mean, he is Mr. Holocaust, so to speak. Okay, but at any rate, what happened was that Polkus invited Eichmann to Palestine to visit the Zionist kibbutzes, etc., etc. So he gets to Palestine. He's there for a day when the British realize, who is this guy, you know? And they kick him out, okay? So he and Polkus go to Cairo. And again, they start negotiating. Now, what Polkus told him was, look, if you make the Haravara transfer agreement even more favorable to us, I'll spy for you. I'll try to locate oil in the Middle East for you. Now, we know this because Eichmann, being a good German bureaucrat, he wrote it up. And after World War II, the Americans, when they captured Germany, found the documents.
There's a lovely detail. This is fantastic, but I want to move along. Isn't there a medal in there somewhere?
Yes. In fact, well, the medal is from a slightly earlier period. Eichmann worked for a guy, the SS had a specific, quote, Jewish office. In other words, an office that specialized in messing over the Jews, okay? And the guy in charge of it was a guy named Baron Itzelder von Mildenstein, all right? So in 1933, the Zionists invited von Mildenstein to Palestine, and he was there as their guest for about 6 months, and then he went back to Germany and wrote up his visit in Der Angriff, which was the leading SS propaganda journal, and they actually made a medal about the size of a silver dollar with a swastika on one side and a Star of David on the other, as a commemoration of von Mildenstein's visit to Palestine. Now, Eichmann, as I say, he went to Palestine in 1937. He started as von Mildenstein's disciple. And von Mildenstein had Eichmann learn Hebrew. Okay? Now, whenever I tell that to Jews, most of them burst out laughing, because the one thing about Judaism that is least popular among Jews is having to learn Hebrew. You understand? So the idea of Eichmann, Adolf Eichmann, studying Hebrew sounds like a joke, you know, except that it was real.
I mean, we have some stunning stuff here, breaking the boycott against Hitler, bringing von Mildenstein, bringing Eichmann. Want to talk now about Hitler's buddy, Mussolini.
Okay.
What kind of relations did some Zionists have with him?
Right. Okay, now, Mussolini, his image was that he wanted to recreate the Roman Empire, okay, in the Mediterranean. So he saw Britain as a rival, because, you know, Britain ran Britain and France as his rivals, because they had Palestine, the British had Palestine and Egypt, the French had Syria and Lebanon, and Algeria, Tunisia, Morocco, etc. So, you know, he became their enemy, all right? Now, as I said before, when Jabotinsky, the founder of Zionist revisionism, he wanted the Zionists to demand that the British revise their policy, and the World Zionist Organization wouldn't do it. So he decided to go looking for another mandatory to take over from Britain in Palestine. All right. Well, who was the only one who could even possibly do that was Mussolini in Italy. Okay. Now, Jabotinsky's first attitude. You have to understand something about Jabotinsky. Jabotinsky was one of the world's leading linguists. And he had lived in Italy for 3 years, and he spoke letter-perfect Italian. Okay? Italians couldn't believe that he wasn't Italian. All right? He was so enthusiastic for the Italy before Mussolini that when Mussolini came to power, he didn't like him. And he called him the head buffalo. Okay? You know, leading the rest of the buffaloes. But he needed somebody to replace the British who were getting soft on the Arabs. All right? So he became more and more pro-Italian. And finally, in 1935, Mussolini invited Jabotinsky's youth group called Betar and had cadets from Betar trained at Mussolini's Naval Academy. Okay, that's the equivalent of Annapolis in the United States, all right? And what literally happened was that they had about, over a period of about a year or so, 130 guys trained on ships and so on by Mussolini. And they literally, Mussolini came, when they opened up their squadron at his academy, he came, you know, as a sign of, you know, his friendship, etc., and they wrote it up, and their report on their squadron at Civitavecchia is in the book.
And who is the political heirs in modern Israel to Jabotinsky's people?
Literally, Binyamin, that's the Hebrew for Benjamin, Bibi Netanyahu. His father, Netanyahu's father, was Vladimir Jabotinsky's secretary. Okay? So, in other words, this ain't no secret. You know, he can't say, I didn't know. You know, okay? Let's put it this way. They were so pro-fascist that at least 35 of them actually joined the Mussolini's university student group. In other words, they weren't just pro-fascist, they joined the Italian Fascist Party. That's how fascist they were. Now,
and all the while, Mussolini is ravaging Ethiopia. And so
now, while the war was going on in Ethiopia, the Zionist revisionist movement, that's Netanyahu's father's movement, I'm emphasizing this now, they marched in parades, they collected tin cans to be used, when I say tin, I mean, metal cans to be used during the war. This sounds strange to us, but the same thing went on in America during World War II. I mean, I remember collecting cans as a kid for the American government during World War II.
And these guys were collecting for the other side.
They were collecting for Mussolini, yeah. And they marched in his victory parade.